I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And the name of the show is Deep Space Babylon 59. We have returned to talk about what I think are a couple of really good episodes of first season Deep Space Nine and Babylon 5. We're going to begin with a DS9 episode called The Nagus, which introduces Eric to all kinds of stuff that's gonna matter later.
Oh, good.
Why don't you get us started?
So, there is the... is it the Grand Nagus?
It's the Grand
The
Nagus.
Grand Nagus arrives on I almost said Babylon 5. On Deep Space Nine to talk to Quark, and it's decided, and he announces that Quark is going to be the new Grand Nagus because there's a whole nother sector of the galaxy that doesn't know that there's swindlers and hucksters and all of that, and there's so much money to be made there, and Quark's going to be the head of this.
In the Gamma Quadrant.
Yeah, to the Gamma Quadrant. Not sector, quadrant.
Yeah.
And Quark is now the Grand Nagus. Oh, it's spelled Nagus? Everyone pronounces it Nagus, but it's two A's.
It's one A.
Oh, is it one A?
Yeah, it's one A.
I thought it was two. That was Nagus. Anyways. Nope. So he... Quark becomes...
Sort of like that, he's kind of naggy. You know, they could have gone with that pronunciation, but no, it's Nagus.
Odo would have called him Nagus.
Sure. It's really disrespectful, though. That's the leader of it. That's the leader of an entire planet. That would be really disrespectful.
Everyone keeps calling him whatever they keep calling him, and he doesn't like that.
Well, that's true, but he's not like the president or a king or something.
That's true.
Like the Grand Nagus.
Is he like the king or the president?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He runs the whole planet.
Okay.
We don't get that entirely here. I mean, I think it's supposed to be implied.
Yeah, it was implied, but I wasn't sure.
You get much more of a sense of it, especially later on. I mean, I try not to give too much away, but especially later on when we actually go to Ferenginar.
Okay.
Because we'll go to that planet and we'll see more of how it operates.
But so Quark is Grand Nagus, and
Constable Grand Nagus.
Yeah, Constable Grand Nagus, and
because Zek says that he's too old. That's his. That's what he claims is that he's getting old and someone else needs to come in and
immediately
take over.
Immediately, Quark is like, "Oh, everyone's going to try and kill me and take over my position," and so he goes to the previous Grand Nagus, Zek, and he seems to die, like on the spot, and then his body is distributed out to people as collectibles, which is just the best thing.
It's a great ruse, right? I got the proof right here.
Yeah, no, but it's also a really interesting cultural thing.
Yeah.
You could do some really dark sci-fi stuff with that, like when a celebrity dies, like you split up their body, and that I really like that.
That was played for comedy.
I really like it. It's a really cool idea. So Quark becomes more and more suspicious of who's there's an assassination attempt on him because he's now the full-blown Grand Nagus. He has no advisors, really. He's got his brother, and he's got the Nagus' son.
And of course, his brother is out to get him.
Yeah, and then we find out, and his brother just wants the bar. Mm-hmm. He's like, okay, you're in charge of everything now. Surely I can take over your bar. And Quark's like, no, I'm going to run the bar too. And there's a point where he gets...
Well, maybe he would leave it to someone. I mean, eventually he would have to go to Ferenginar, I would think. Mm-hmm. But it's just... Rom's an idiot. It's ridiculous to think that he could run the bar, and so and the whole older younger brother thing of I'm supposed to have everything and you're supposed to have nothing.
Yeah, which he says to him.
Yes. This is the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, he's like, you have so much and I have so little. He's like, as it should be.
Yeah. And he has that great moment where he just laughs hysterically until Odo finally walks in.
Yeah. No, that was great. And so we find out that Rom and the Nagus' son are plotting to kill him, and then the Nagus shows up, and it's revealed that he's not dead, and that this was all a test for his son, which, if it's a bloodline position, I feel like you would know that, and you would be like, wait a second, what do you mean you're picking me? Why wouldn't it be his son?
I think he's able to pick anybody he wants to.
They just usually pick their blood?
I don't know because I don't know about the history of other Naguses, so I don't know if it's traditional for it to be passed down to a son. But he wants to. It seems like here he wants to give it to a son, and of course there's a lot of father-son stuff in this across the board.
Yeah.
But like the sense I get is he wants to give it to his son, but he doesn't know if he's qualified and if he'll handle it properly.
Yeah.
And he decides at the end that he's grossly underqualified. because he's not handling things in the correct greedy kind of way.
And he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to keep being the Nagus."
Because you have to make sure that your greed is sustainable.
Yeah. So, and then the subplot of the episode is all about Cisco and Jake, and Cisco's worried that Jake always hanging out with Nog is a bad influence. Which, by the way, at the beginning of this episode, Cisco says he's gonna leave, and he's there the whole episode. Like, the first thing we see of Cisco is, tomorrow, I think it's tomorrow, we're gonna go on this trip
to the Unity Festival on Bejor. Yeah, but I don't think a whole day has passed. Is the thing? No, because it's like
at least 2 school days.
Well, yeah, because he says maybe he just decides not to go,
or maybe
I'm not sure.
Or maybe he said like this weekend or something, and I'm just misremembering.
Yeah, maybe so. Because we do know that at least one day passes because it's the next morning, and he's like, you were out past midnight.
Mm-hmm. And you better be home at 6.
Yeah.
And so there's some father-son stuff going on there. Cisco has a conversation about how I can't tell him that he can't be friends with Nog. I'm not going to put him in a situation where he's going to choose between us because he's probably not going to choose me.
I like that line.
It's great. And then he locates Jake on the ship after talking with Dax, and goes and finds him and learns that Jake's basically tutoring Nog.
Mm-hmm.
Nog's father has told him that he's no longer going to go to the school on Deep Space Nine, so he's tutoring Nog and
specifically teaching him to read.
Yeah,
because we learned earlier
he doesn't know how to read.
Jake has a throwaway line about that.
Yeah,
it's paid off real nicely with that, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And then you have the nice moment between Cisco and Jake where he's like you're a good kid.
And I like how subtle that is, where he doesn't feel the need to give exposition about what happened. Mm-hmm. He doesn't feel the need to tell him, I saw you and what you did and I'm proud of you. Yeah. I like that he doesn't even go that far. He just says, you're a good kid, mm-hmm. Go play with your friend.
Yeah. Yeah. So on the whole, I thought this was a really good episode. Mm-hmm. Maybe the best we've seen thus far. I'm
glad you're saying that, because I think this is the first real major glimpse of what this show turns into.
And I got that vibe. And I noticed that there's one writer on this. A lot of the other episodes have like 4 writers. It feels consistent. Like mm-hmm. It feels like a piece. I really like this. I loved all this stuff. The Quark's great. We did that thing again that we did with Orion, where like last episode was kind of a Quark episode, and we're doing a Quark episode. I would space these differently.
Yeah.
But all the Ferengi stuff is really cool and interesting, and that's just a weird society.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look at the at production information on the first season and find out where if Move Along Home was intended to be placed someplace else, because that's really a filler episode that could go anywhere, mm-hmm. and maybe that wasn't supposed to go there initially. Maybe it was like, we've got the script, we'll rush this out.
Well, isn't there a thing about air order? I thought that was the thing when we first started. Was people were saying, "Oh, you're watching it in the wrong order. This is the air order. That's just the."
Oh yeah,
Netflix puts
mm-hmm.
it on.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Mm-hmm. So we might actually be watching a couple of these out of order from where it was. I forgot all about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're not using the disc, we're using Netflix.
Yeah.
And I think the discs have it right, and I usually watch it that way.
Oh.
But I'm not sure. I forgot all about that.
Hopefully that's not a problem when you get to later seasons.
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't.
I liked the Cisco stuff. This is kind of what I was asking for. Yeah. I was like, I wish we had more stuff with Jake. It was kind of surfacey.
You think so?
I kind of wish we got into his feelings more. I mean, I guess we do with the scene where he talks about like he's gonna choose him. He's gonna choose Nog over me, and I don't know. I wanted that to be more of the A plot. Mm-hmm. I kind of was more interested in, not more interested than the actual A plot, but I want to know what Cisco feels about this more, especially because we haven't dealt with him being a father basically at all. Last episode we forgot to talk about the whole thing with Nog and Jake and looking at girls, but it seems like a thing that we set up at the beginning and we've just kind of ignored for 8 episodes.
Yeah, because it was such a minor part of that.
Yeah, I wish.
Yeah, I forgot about that too.
I wish we did a little bit more with specifically the Cisco part. Because Cisco, I think is supposed to be the main character.
Yeah.
So I just wish we.
But it is, of course, an ensemble cast show.
Yeah. There's a lot of just like Cisco just sitting like thinking, and I'm like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, that's totally fair. It wouldn't bug you as much maybe if we had, as like you kept asking for, seeded more of this earlier, where occasionally you checked in with Quark with Nog and Jake. Wouldn't it have been nice if intermittently as we went to them, we saw Jake changing because of Nog's influence. And then, or seeming to change, and then this becomes like the boiling point, and then when the chips are down, he actually really hasn't changed that much. He's just exploring like any 14-year-old kid would, and trying to find his identity, but at the end, the good upbringing wins out. And he's able to help his friend as opposed to be changed by him, and each of them are able to bring something useful from their culture to their relationship, but not to let the cultural pressures change them. I mean that's more of what I latch onto most for this episode in the context of Star Trek, where we're actually dealing. The utopia seems harder.
Yeah,
in this show.
Well, and we have this conversation.
Infinite diversity and infinite combinations is a hard thing you have to keep fighting for.
There's a conversation with Jake and Cisco, and then with Nog and Rom about how Ferengis and humans just don't mix.
Yeah.
And Jake and Nog kind of decide that they don't care.
Because it's the... because they're defining themselves. They're not defined by their cultures. And you can tell when Nog... I really like that moment when Nog says, well, humans are stupid, and I can't... and I can't be with you because there's no profit in it. When he says that, he doesn't believe it. He's not convinced. Yeah, he's spewing the propaganda of his culture and what his father has told him. And he's... and
as we've established, his father's an idiot.
And he does not care about that. But that's what any Ferengi... Well, but what's kind of interesting about that, too, is that... And I'm gleaning this some from what we know later on about Rom, and I don't want to bring too much of that, because he becomes kind of a different character as time progresses. But you can tell that Rom doesn't seem to be entirely... that doesn't entirely care about the Ferengi code either. Like he wants to feel significant and stuff, but I think that kind of trumps the Ferengi values of greed more, because
he just kind of wants to be in charge.
Because why is he allowing his son to go to that school in the first place? Is it because he's neglectful, or is it because he wants him to go his own way because that's his attitude? I want to be able to be my own man, and I'm raising my son that way.
Is Rom the one at the beginning that's having the conversation with Quark about giving the money back to the girl because she's pretty?
Yeah,
that is Rom.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah.
So that's, you're right, I forgot about that scene. That's an important scene.
Yeah. Yeah, and Quark's like, no. It's like the first rule of something.
The first rule of acquisition, yeah.
First rule of acquisition. Once you've got their money, never give it back.
Never give it back. There are so many firsts in this episode of things that keep coming back and matter a lot. The Nagus is a big deal with, of course, Ferengi culture. The rules of acquisition. We will constantly throw those out and hear those all over the place.
Is there a defined rules of acquisition?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And there's a book.
Okay. Do they... So they don't, like, contradict? It's not like we randomly are like 4, and then 10 episodes later we're like 4, and it's something different?
I think there is... I can't remember which number it is. I think there is one number where there is 2 of the same number. And it's a thing that happened on accident, and then I think maybe they tried to have an explanation for why there was 2 of those. It's pretty funny. There's 2 of them that I remember that are intentionally inherently contradictory right back to back, and it's in the same episode and in the same scene. Is peace is good for business. The next one is war is good for business.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's great.
I liked all that. I loved all the rules of acquisition stuff. I really like Quark. I continue to not know why he's allowed to do anything he does.
Yeah.
Well,
interesting that at the end, Rom gets away with attempted murder.
Yeah.
And, of course, Quark, they sweep it under the rug a little bit, and they don't even talk about the possibility of his being incarcerated or anything.
Yeah, but Quark's just impressed.
But Quark's not gonna press charges. There's no talk about charges. Odo doesn't come to him and talk to him about it.
Right.
But like, there's no he wouldn't press charges because he thinks that's from his cultural bias an endearing thing to do. You care about more about profit than you do your family. Good on you.
I loved where we have like a whole scene and then he's just sitting there. He's
I still feel like Odo would have done something.
You tried to push me out of the airlock.
Yeah, I love that, and then he starts that like a casual conversation. Saram! Tried to push me out of an airlock. That's great.
I don't have a lot to say about this episode, because it's all just it's all lore and world building, really.
Yeah.
I think the Ferengi culture is really interesting. And I would imagine it's... I mean, you said this is a lot at first, so I'd imagine it's a hard civilization to build conceptually.
Yeah, and it's built out of a mistake, because the Ferengi were originally intended to be one of the big scary bad guy races of TNG.
Oh, sure.
And if you go back and look at The Last Outpost, which is their introduction in TNG, Armin Shimmerman is one of the Ferengi in that. I think maybe we've talked about that. And they're just these whiny, snivelly, weird creatures that they have lightning whips, and they just go around. And they were supposed to be this like big scary bad guy race. And it didn't work, and they were goofy, and everyone made fun of them. So they steered into that, and they developed this culture that is, partially a joke, and as a kind of comedic race is intended to, in kind of a fun and tongue-in-cheek way, show you the exact opposite of what the Federation stands for.
Yeah, no, they're really fun as in that science fiction idea way. What if there was a race that had all of the opposite values?
Yeah.
And they're fun.
And can we still get along with them?
Yeah.
You know, and I love that. I mean, and I love the idea. Like, my big takeaway from this is the kids who teach the adults something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, is that they're not mired down by the politics, and they don't. And they don't care about all that. They don't care about the traditions. And
they're just friends.
They're able to find a common humanity between each other that these other races have lost because or not lost, but that they can't find between them because their ideology trumps their thirst for friendship, which is what the Federation is supposed to be all about.
Well, and I think it's interesting when Sisko's talking about them, he specifically phrased it as, we've just never been able to find a common bond.
Yeah.
They just can't find anything that overlaps.
Mm-hmm.
But these kids can.
And what they find is thirst for knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with that one kid, none of the other ones seem to really care. That I'm not sure.
Neither did he in that scene.
What do you mean?
I mean, you're talking about in the schoolroom.
No, I'm talking about reading. I was talking about the learning to read.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
No, the rest of I'm not sure how the Ferengi develop technology. There's no profit in building.
Well, they steal it.
Is that what? Is that how it happens?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of that. I mean, there's a lot of or they rip people off and stuff.
That makes more sense.
There's an Enterprise episode with the Ferengi which I don't love because you kind of get the sense that we maybe didn't know about them in TOS, but whatever. Well, and you don't, and they do that silly thing they often do in Enterprise, where if we meet somebody too early, we conveniently don't hear about the name of their race. But I think we did that. We did that with the Borg too. But anyway, with that episode, they're space pirates before they're anything, and they're trying to they steal things and they sell things.
That makes sense. Okay.
And there are also like Ferengi scientists and stuff. I mean, the thing. Oh yeah.
What's the profit in that?
There's an episode. It's not that there is and it's kind of like scientists and doctors on Kronos. With the Klingons. Like that's a warrior race. It's all about honor. It's all about fighting for your people and duty and stuff. And they're not. And there's no, with the Ferengi, there's no profit in it. With the Klingons, there's no honor in it. Mm-hmm. And so it's necessary part of their society, because without it they would collapse, but they're like really low on the totem pole. You know, they're thought of like a lower caste almost. I mean, not that those really have a caste system, but it's people who choose to do those things because they go their own way and are independent and develop a passion outside of what the culture is all about, and they're kind of shunned in society for it, but the society needs them, and they don't give them what they need to do their jobs properly. And this is a thing we deal with. There's a TNG episode with a Ferengi scientist, and they talk about that. He's unlike, and that's a Crusher-centered episode, and he's unlike any Ferengi she's ever met, and I really like that. Sometimes we'll meet one. We talked about this last time. That we'll meet one that's not just filling all the stereotypes.
Right.
People are individuals, and sometimes someone will be bold enough to go against what the culture says they're supposed to be.
I guess that makes sense. Again, though, not really Dax. One day I will get an episode, and Dax will be a character in that episode.
Yeah.
She got one scene, which I actually really like that scene.
Yeah, it's a good scene
because it's her drawing on her past life, and it's Cisco talking to his friend.
Yeah,
and we had that big thing in Dax about, is she still the person that he knew? Like, I like that they were having that friendship. That it was continuing on. She was giving advice.
The sense I get early on is that they're not totally sure who Cisco is yet.
Oh, no, that's very clear.
And that Dax might not be that hard of a thing to flesh out, but they just haven't gotten to her yet.
Yeah, I'm just kind of waiting.
Although we did have an episode about her culture, and we still didn't do enough with her, so we may have some of that there too, where it's like, okay, we have this. We found one of the most fascinating ideas in TNG that we didn't do anything with, or that was not a great episode, and we thought that would be great for an ongoing series, and right now it's still just the idea before it's a character.
Yeah. But the scene in this episode was good.
Working on that.
Okay, so before we move on,
I
have to talk about the biggest problem with this whole episode.
Yeah, sure.
O'Brien is teaching a class.
Yeah. How's the station not falling apart?
How is the station? We were told that like O'Brien doesn't sleep, he doesn't eat. All he does is keep things from falling apart at all times. How's he teaching a class in the middle of all that? It's not really a problem. It's just I know they don't remember that episode that they made.
This episode feels like they're keenly aware of where the placement is. So there are other episodes that are, of course, like very much, like I said, kind of filler, standalone episodes. This is, for lack of a better word, a mythology episode or a lore episode, and a character building episode. We haven't been doing enough of that. We can't decide if we want this to be TNG or if we want to tell an ongoing story, which is why the Jake stuff shouldn't be as big of a deal that we didn't get farther in that, except it feels like it's supposed to be the kind of show where we would have done more than that by this point already.
Right.
So if I'm right about that, I think O'Brien is there at the beginning because they want to give him something to do, because we haven't seen him in 2 episodes.
We haven't seen him in 2 episodes, and that was nice. And
and everybody gets something in this episode.
Well, except for Kira.
Oh, that's true. She's just kind of there.
I mean, Inoto gets like 3 lines, but like he's here, I guess.
Yeah, no,
I'm sure Kira's in the background.
I just felt that way because of characters that I hadn't been seeing in a while. That
yeah, we kind of rotated the cast slightly.
Yeah.
But you know,
it makes sense that Odo and Kira aren't real involved in this because it is far and away from having anything to do with the Bajoran Cardassian stuff.
Yeah. Wait for the Cardassian
so hopefully we have some. I know. I did not remember that Dukat is nowhere to be seen this
10 episodes in.
It's crazy. Especially because of how all over the place he'll be pretty soon.
Alright, so, I like this episode. I think this is probably the best episode we've gotten so far. I think I like it better than Dax. I think Dax was my previous best episode. I think this is probably better than Dax. But that might just be because it's more fun.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just enjoying watching the Ferengi culture. Dax is probably a better episode written, like, on the page kind of a thing.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, I don't. Because I think the thematic stuff is so well integrated throughout the. I mean, like holding all these subplots together so well. Fathers and sons and tolerance and
the B plot's kind of reflecting the A plot in different ways. Yeah, no, you're right. I thought this was a really good episode.
Dax is not enough of a character piece for being an identity episode, in my opinion.
Yeah,
and this is very. I mean, like Cisco goes through a real honest to God character arc.
Yeah. I mean, it's not Tosk, but it was a pretty good episode.
Before we move on, I wanted to ask you one question, which is it a little strange that Quark? I mean, I guess Zach just likes to be in control and in charge, and he clearly basks in like not telling anyone anything. But like, wouldn't that whole
the answer to your question is yes.
Wouldn't that whole situation have been a lot easier for everyone involved if Quark was in on the whole thing?
Yeah,
that's my question.
Yeah, and why wasn't
what I was gonna ask?
And why wasn't he more angry at the end?
Yeah. Why
wasn't he like, oh, I'm not?
It made me wonder for a split second, and I'm sure he's not, if he was in on it.
But he's not. He doesn't seem to be.
And he doesn't seem to be. He's like, oh, okay. But on the other hand,
he was about to get spacey.
Really good reason not to want to be the Nagus.
Yeah. Yeah, but even still, I feel like out of pride, you would have been like, "Oh, you swindled me!" Like maybe I guess maybe you'd appreciate that.
I mean, I might have written that last scene a little bit differently, where Zek was like, maybe one day, and Quark, finishes his sentence. I might get to be Nagus. No, that's not what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll give you an opportunity in the Gamma Quadrant. Like, I mean, I might have written something like that.
Yeah. So, no, that was the thing I was thinking of too. When we got to the end, I was like, was he in on it? No, he wasn't in on it. He was way too scared to have been in on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, that was a little weird. That was a little weird. I would have made him in on it.
But other than that, I think the plot is pretty foolproof. I mean,
yeah, it's a really good episode.
Well, now let's go on to Babylon 5, which I think is an equally good episode.
Deathwalker.
And has some things in common, Deathwalker, most notably that it is also a big lore culture building kind of episode, and is super involved with all the politics of the show. And of course, Deep Space Nine also really political heavy kind of thing, but we're dealing with mostly one culture in that. And here, as we often do with Babylon 5, it's about like 6. And, oh boy, you're going to have to help me out, because keeping all this straight, there's so much going on right now.
We have the coalition of not important races.
Yes.
You're going to see all over the place.
And when I say there's so much going on, it's because I can't decide how much of them I'm supposed to keep track of and remember and stuff.
The like nobody races?
Of just different races. Like
I don't know what any of those are called.
Oh, okay. Like the woman with the fish head?
Yeah, I don't know what she's called.
Who's played by Robin Curtis, the second Savik from Star Trek 3, and I wouldn't have recognized her. And you said she's in another episode.
Yeah, she was in one we already watched.
I forgot about that.
I think she was in the one.
And you were like, "Oh, she's such an eager beaver," and I didn't even notice that was who that was. Like I saw her name in the credits this time. Looked it up and I was like, oh, that's who she was. Because there are a lot of female characters in this episode that either are introduced or we don't use all that much. Like Jakar's
Natoth.
Yeah, I will not remember those people's names for a while. I'm gonna get there, hopefully. But her aide, who's there for a second.
It looks like it's gonna be her episode at the beginning.
It does, yeah.
And that it's not.
Oh yeah, that whole thing kind of well, I don't want to say peters out. I mean, we know why she doesn't go after her after that.
Yeah, like it resolves. But
yeah.
You would think that the episode's going to be about her, and it's not.
Well, let's just go ahead and get into what the episode's about. Help me out with a synopsis, because I will mess up some stuff.
Okay.
So she has this I don't even know what to call it. She like in their culture, there's ritualistic murder.
Oh, there's a name for that. It's like Kantoth or something like that.
Oh, that's right. I forgot what it was.
Yeah, a Kanfar, Kan something.
But it's basically like an honor vengeance motive.
Yeah,
and
which we're told Jakar has many of.
He has many of. That's great. I bet one of them is Londo. He'll get around to it eventually. Jakar. But anyway, so we have this character who comes aboard. Do you remember the name of her race? Because I cannot.
Oh, the Deathwalkers?
Yes.
Or the Deathwalkers people? No.
Okay, so she comes in, and we find out that Jakar's aide has a blood vengeance feud thing with her, and tries to kill her. And we find out that everybody wants her dead, it turns out, because she basically single-handedly caused a Holocaust. And
it seems like multiple Holocausts?
Yeah.
It's like a bunch of different wars she just murdered lots of people, like, and whole planets. We're told whole planets.
Wow. So she's a genocidal maniac.
Yes.
And she acts alone, and you get the sense that maybe she was kind of, I don't want to say bred this way, but like culturally predisposed to be like this.
It does seem like her culture is monsters.
Yeah.
But she was stand out enough that she gets her own name. Like, it's not just her race, it is her specifically. She is Deathwalker.
Well, and for a minute I thought it would be like she's a Deathwalker or the Deathwalker. No, she's referred to as Deathwalker.
Yeah.
And, so she's done a lot of experiments on people, and she's also a scientist. She's brilliant.
Yeah.
What's up?
I picked it up to look to see if it said her race,
mm-hmm.
and I was like, oh, it's not written by JMS. That must be what I was looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I should have written it down, but anyway.
Yeah. No, it just says her name.
Yeah.
Which is Jadder.
But anyway, so but I mean, let's just call her Deathwalker.
Yeah.
Because that's awesome. Let me say real quick that she did not impress me.
No,
the actress.
She was just kind of an arch villain.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because she should have real gravitas. You're gonna talk about somebody like that? I want female Hitler.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's really what that should have felt like, I think.
Yeah, and she was just bad guy of the week.
But anyway, so there's like...
I love when she talks to Jakar, and she's like, you just have to do this, and then he walks away, and she's
got that crazy laugh. And I kept expecting her to do it again.
Yeah.
But one thing I gotta really give this show is that when they have a bad guy of the week, it feels like stuff's at stake, right? Like, their crypto freaks have like...
long-reaching political ramifications.
Entire worlds. Everyone knows who they are already. We understand their motivations. They're often like really politically motivated. We do social commentary about the cultural issues that got them to that place. There are people to blame besides them for how they became these monsters. I've not seen Freak of the Week done quite like this before, and it's great because every time I expect it to be someone who's going to be... If this was in any show right now, that person is the villain for the entire season.
Oh, yeah.
And I keep expecting those. I keep expecting to go, okay, Eric, when do I get to see this person again? And he almost always is like, not gonna happen. Not gonna happen.
You didn't even get to ask it this time.
No, I did not. That's true. So
it answered it for you.
So the I didn't expect that to happen, but that's one of the best things about the episode. Oh, I'll get there. So anyway, we have a tribunal that's convened, and the various ambassadors of the worlds are trying to decide what to do with her, and they all, for various political motivations, or not all of them, but the majority end up voting to is it to not incarcerate her or to not not to have a trial. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all of the main races, the whole
yes.
And for different reasons.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Yep.
And I really like that. And the reason that there would even be a question of whether or not to put her on trial, because obviously she's done all these horrible things. She should be. But there's a lot of talk about this. Well, Sinclair, don't you think she should be punished? Well, yes, of course she should, but it's more complicated than that because, well, she's discovered the Fountain of Youth, and she's going to give it to Earth. And the reason she's going to give it to Earth is fascinating because she basically wants to.
And this isn't revealed until the end of the episode.
It's not, but but hold on, because it's even interesting before we know about the drawback of it, the fact that you have to kill someone for every person that gets immortality.
Oh, you're talking about the Conquerors thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, even before that, it's really interesting because she's got this kind of plan to like it's almost like a Bane false hope kind of thing, you know. And I really like that where it's like, well, I'm gonna give you this thing that's gonna make you immortal, but you're gonna get it while remembering forever that it was me who gave it to you. And I'm going to go down in history as the best thing that ever happened to humanity.
You all think of us as monsters, but after this happens, you won't. We will be remembered as heroes.
Yes, and doesn't it justify everything I did? And that's, of course, the question here is if you use it, doesn't that, or that's one of the questions here. It actually wasn't as much about this as I expected it to, but like, aren't you condoning all of the horrible things that got you there if you use that research? And this is the thing we play with in science fiction all the time.
I think a lot of times...
There's a Voyager episode all about
well,
that.
A lot of times we play with the idea of legacy, and we usually have characters concerned about their legacy.
Sure.
I don't usually see it like this.
Yeah. No,
where it's,
that's really cool.
I'm aware that my legacy should and will most likely be awful, but here's this thing, and for all of history moving forward, everyone will remember me as a great person.
So, at the end...
It's the Thomas Edison thing.
So toward the end, the girl with the fish head decides that she's not going to take this anymore. That we're that we're actually going to use this formula, and that we're not going to put her on trial. And she just starts bringing ships through, and it's ships of various races.
Yep.
And
they all look really different.
Yep, and scary, and like video game ships, and not just because like they're real out there sci-fi ships, you know. They're not thinking about what you could really fly. Like, I mean, I know it's space, so you don't have to worry about aerodynamics, but like they got some wild ships.
The one with the big orb in the middle.
Yeah, it shows up, and I just yelled at the screen, "What is that?" You're like, well, it's a spaceship, dummy. And I was like, but it's got an orb in the middle. What is living in there? Consciousness? You know, and so these ships come through, and they set you up to think maybe there's going to be like something's going to go down.
Yeah, because they say they're going to fire on Babylon 5. Babylon 5 pulls out their guns.
Yeah,
we're going to fire on
great.
you.
That was great. Where the Rockhead guy is like he flinches, and you turn to me and you're like, oh my god, a space station that can protect itself? It's got guns?
I don't know what they expected.
Yeah, well, because it would, like, that was one of the only kind of really silly things in this episode. Because I didn't even think of it until you said it, and then I was like, yeah, because if you specify what kind of weapons, like you could bring your guns out and be like, well, yeah, okay, guns, you know, and then you specify what they are. Oh, I can't match up against that. Like, that would work. But just, wait a minute. Turrets popped out! What am I gonna do? Well, you should have been prepared for that, sir. You're coming into a whole city-state, probably gonna be able to... You walk far enough, people don't even know who Sinclair is! That thing's gonna be able to protect itself. So anyway, then the second best thing in the whole episode happens. And I have not gotten to the first thing yet, which is the Vorlons show up. The Vorlons?
Yeah, the Vorlons, yes. That's got it
right. Well, there's three of them: the Vogons, the Vorlons, and I'm always afraid I'm gonna get them wrong.
Kosh's race is the Vorlons.
The Vorlons show up, and they kill the Deathwalker.
Well, because what was decided was that the Deathwalker was going to be sent to Earth, and the Deathwalker was going to develop this serum.
I could have made that clearer, but yes.
Yeah. So as they're leaving, and like everyone's watching, like, she got away. The Vorlons just show up and just blow up her ship.
And one thing that I think is kind of interesting is that we seem to be more concerned with the fact that a genocidal psychopath is getting off and is going to go down in history in a positive light, maybe, more than we're concerned with the fact that humans are about to be immortal. Which I'm not even criticizing. I just think it's interesting that, like, we're more worried about that.
Right.
And, of course, you gotta wonder how much the humans were even going to use it. Like, I knew there was no way that we start synthesizing that. Like, that immediately, like, changes the tide of your show. That's in your pilot. You open with that, or that's, like, your season 3 opener, right? Like, that's not... Episode 9, that's not going to happen. But I started thinking about it. I was like, well, would we start immediately synthesizing this and giving it to people? How do we decide who dies? And so, as I said earlier, the idea is for every person that you make immortal, you have to kill someone else. And she says that's going to create chaos, and basically they're going to eat each other.
Yeah, your race will become what my race is.
Yeah,
you'll be savages. You'll live forever, but you'll never get away from the mountains of bodies that you had to kill to.
Yeah, here's the cost. And I love that, because if you're going to have a fountain of youth, there's got to be a cost. But But it conveniently has a wonderful built-in way to deal with overpopulation.
That's true.
At least some of it. You still would have overpopulation, but some overpopulation, it would help to solve that. Maybe she built that in on purpose. I'm not sure. I got the sense though that was just a side effect she couldn't clear out of it.
Yeah, or that she never tried to.
Or that she didn't try to, yeah. Yeah, because from her perspective, like, oh, that's great.
But then the Vorlons show up, they blow up the ship.
And
Kosh says, humans are not ready for immortality.
You're not
and
ready
then leaves.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's all he says. He just says, you are not ready for immortality, and then he leaves.
I thought at the beginning, so here comes my first favorite thing. I thought, when we watched the pilot, that Kosh might become my favorite character. Mm-hmm. And then I was worried that we wouldn't see him enough. Mm-hmm. And we could never see him again. And he's my favorite character. Somebody else could trump him, but right now, oh boy, I love him. He speaks in riddles, couched in more riddles, couched in conundrums. He's wonderful. 30 seconds into the episode, my favorite line of the series so far. We're gonna have to meet at 2 minutes in. We're gonna have to meet on the hour of. Oh, help me out. Scampering. The hour of scampering. And I lost it. And Eric goes, surely he didn't say scampering, right? He was like, it was probably some alien word, and we usually would watch these with subtitles. I forgot to turn them on. Turned them on. I was going to keep going. Eric goes, are you going to roll that? You're going to roll that back, right? And I was like, oh yes, I'm going to roll it back. So I went ahead and rolled it back. Scampering! Yes! And they kept being great.
The hour of scampering, the hour of longing.
The hour of longing. I wanted more hours.
Yeah.
I want a Vorlon watch so bad. Hour of scampering, hour of longing, hour of prosthetics. I want to just keep going. What does any of this mean? And then you get this other great line where Winters is like, I don't understand. Because he keeps speaking in riddles. Mm. And nothing is making any sense. And he says, "Understanding is a three-way sword. Is a three-pronged sword."
Yeah.
He's awesome. And what's great is he doesn't only speak in riddles. He will just come out and say things.
He speaks in riddles when it makes sense to speak in riddles, I guess. Well, he doesn't want them to know what he's talking about.
He doesn't want them to know what he's talking about.
Because that's the big reveal at the end of this episode.
Exactly.
She wasn't supposed to know. She wasn't supposed to understand anything.
Mm-hmm. And it was all about what they could get out of her head. Mm-hmm. I think.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, and okay. So I'm wondering if that subplot is actually tied to the main plot?
I thought it was.
Because she's been...
I assume that had everything to do with it because it's the Vorlons at the end.
Well... Yeah, because the whole thing is that we find out that Talia was mind linked with a sociopath at some point, or a serial killer. And that's what he's getting out of her. And my assumption would be, if you could produce people like this, you're not ready for immortality.
Yeah, he was trying to make a determination of basically how they were going to vote, and by vote I mean fire on the ship and blow it up. Yeah, and then you get. And this came as a wonderful shock to me because I love that the show will go this far, and I'm expecting more of this kind of crazy stuff.
You talking about the vicar?
The guy who's working with him, the vicar, has an open brain.
Yeah, well, he wears a hat the whole episode.
Great hat, and then when he takes it off, there's this great because the thing is, when you have a hat that dopey. I mean, it's the giant Cagliostro hat we made from Spawn here. Mm-hmm. It's that weird, and
except it's got Pac-Man mouths cut into it.
Yeah. It's got these weird breaks in it, and that was I didn't realize that was there on purpose. So you would look at it and go, "That is a weird hat." You're supposed to stare at that hat so that when he takes it off, you see something weirder, which is an open brain. He's Charles from The Tick. He's got an open brain. There is a character. There's a. I'm afraid I'm giving away too much about DS9 episodes. Maybe you won't remember this later. There's a character. There's an ongoing gag in DS9 with a character we never see named Captain Baudet, and Captain Baudet has a transparent skull. And there's this back and forth where Kira is always appalled because Dax at one point dated Captain Baudet, and he has a transparent skull, and she's like, "That's gross, and I just can't even handle it." But we never see it. And I always thought like maybe they just didn't think they could do, or it's just a fun running gag. He's in the background, he's got a transparent skull. But we're always Trek fans are always complaining about how aliens are not alien enough. And even when you have like the seeding explanation in TNG, you still want some things to be like less humanoid, more alien. And so you want to see the guy with the transparent skull. This show, 9 episodes in, it just gives it to him, more or less. Of course, weirder because like it's open to the elements. You know, it doesn't even have a dome over it.
Well, he's a robot.
Is that what it is, or is he a cyborg with a human
cyborg,
brain?
I think. Because
okay, but he's got a brain.
Know.
It's tissue.
But we find out that he's just like a recording device. I guess maybe he's still a guy, but also functions.
Or maybe
as a recording
it's
device.
using a human brain, but that brain no longer has its own consciousnness. Like maybe it's not self-aware
he's got
anymore.
A personality.
But he does have a personality.
He's always hitting on Talia. Like he wants to go out with her.
Yeah. Is he gonna keep coming back?
No.
Is that... Oh, okay. I thought maybe we'd see him.
I don't think so. He might pop up once or twice again, but he's not like a memorable returning character.
But yeah, I love Kosh. He's
great.
He's just wonderful.
He's great.
This was a highly episode, and the science fiction idea was really interesting. I love the eugenics stuff. I'm glad that we've already gone to that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about the Vicar thing?
Or it's not exactly eugenics, but just the immortality idea. That kind of mad science and stuff. What about the Vicar thing?
The ending gag reveal of what Vicar means. He goes, he's a Vicar.
Oh yeah, it's VCR. I love that. That's on purpose.
Yeah.
He can, because it says he's a recording device. He can record anything. I was like, that VCR can record anything. That's awesome. I forgot all about that.
And in the future, we stop saying VCR and we make it Vicar.
That's really clever. Yeah.
It would be if we kept VCRs around.
Yeah, but I still kind of love it. I know what time period we were in. That's gonna be lost on you if you grew up without VHS. But oh boy, I love that.
It's a little Verger, right?
V'ger? Like motion picture?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little bit of that, I think.
A little bit. Except it's not like...
In microcosm.
Yeah, except it's not the same thing where it's like, well, there were some letters that were covered up by dust. We looked at that V'ger, what would be in the middle of that? It's like that whenever V'ger is in like the encyclopedias or anything, it's always V-G-E-R.
Oh, really?
That's how we always spell it, yeah. Because something goes in there.
What could it be?
Would you wonder?
But you know, I
would have loved to have somehow done a V'ger episode in Voyager. I don't know how you would have done it, but I always would have loved that. Or do one episode called V'ger.
But yeah, I thought this was a really good episode.
Yeah, it's great.
It did a lot of stuff.
Sinclair is still too over the top.
Oh yeah. Oh, and
he wasn't last episode. Well,
no, he
still was.
Oh man, there's Garibaldi says something to him, and he's great. He's Garibaldi. He's like, but she killed millions of people. Like you can't just let her walk.
Yeah.
And Ziegler just goes, "Don't you think I know that?"
Yeah. He thinks he's on a sitcom. He thinks this is being broadcast live right now. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a little over the top.
Gotta talk about the Admiral guy.
The Admiral guy.
Yeah, or the guy who calls Sinclair from Earth.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if he's an admiral or what he is.
He's Sinclair's Earth contact.
But
I think. Because there is a character...
He's one of his superiors.
Yeah, well, but there is a character that's his superior that's kind of like his Deep Throat?
Is like direct... Oh, okay. But is this like a direct commanding officer or something?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, so I wasn't really paying attention to that scene, so I don't remember if that's that guy or if it's just a commanding officer.
Well, I didn't even want to talk about what that scene's about. The only thing I want to mention is, first of all, when he first speaks, I think he's Londo. Because he's got this, like, deep throat, growly voice, and he's like, Sinclair! And I'm like, oh, that must be Londo, and then it's not Londo.
And Londo's only in this episode for like, two scenes, but he's great.
He's always great. He's always great. I want to do an entire video in that guy's voice whenever I watch this. I just want to be like, hello, everyone! I'm Captain Logan! This is Eric! We're talking about Deep Space Nine and Babylon 5! I gotta gotta work on that voice. I think I could get there.
I think you could.
I think I could get there. Babylon 5! Anyway, but the other thing I wanted to mention is that he does not look like he's standing in front of an actual window.
Hold on.
It's this crazy.
You went off on an impression. Yeah, he's talking about a guy who is not Londo,
right,
who's in a TV screen.
Yes. Sorry about that. I've had too much to drink.
And the guy on the TV screen has like a David Letterman late night show.
I loved it when you said yes. Yes. It looks like that drum.
Yeah, it looks like Carson.
And then you go, is that spaceship just hanging there?
Because it looks like there's a painted spaceship. When we got a close up, it's not a spaceship. It's like a beam of light reflecting off of a building.
Was that what it was? Okay.
Yeah. No, it's a cityscape.
I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but that whole thing was hilarious.
Yeah, it was just like a painting of it. It looked exactly like a late night talk show where they just draw the city behind them.
It's just a matte painting, and it's fine. It doesn't look terrible or anything. You wouldn't want it to be moving because if it was, it would be CD-ROM graphics.
Yeah.
Like what we always get in the show. You don't want that.
No.
But anyway. Well, I think that's all I've got to say about this episode so far because it's just setting up so much stuff.
Yeah.
Was glad to see Winters in her own subplot. She had one with Garibaldi a few episodes ago.
Yes.
I'm liking her more and more as I'm watching this.
Yeah.
She's reminding me of various no-nonsense Trek characters here and there. And I haven't pinpointed yet who she's most like, but she's very familiar to me the more we're watching her.
Cool.
And I like that she's not overly emotional because she's an empath.
Yeah.
You know? They learned some things from Deanna Troi with this show. Most certainly. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching, folks. Sure appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed it. And we will be with you again for another one next week. I am Captain Logan!
And I'm Eric.
See you later, folks. Bye!